Hello and welcome to the SuperShow, a podcast. Hey, it's good to see you, or the reverse of listen to you. I don't know. It's late and we're a day late with the podcast, but hey, there you go. I am joined today by the effervescent Alex Jones and the bubbly Jamie MC. How you doing, fellas?
Doesn't those mean the same thing?
Yeah, I know, but I can't say you're both effervescent because then that's just like...
Jamie is a bath bomb and I am an Alka-Seltzer.
So the one tickles your throat and the other one tickles your arsehole. I like it.
Speaking of effervescent and bubbly, I've got a Monster Energy drink, which is technically both, and I wouldn't have known I could use either of those words until just... I didn't know what effervescent meant. I thought it was a band. Wake me up, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Well, fellas, it's another week, another podcast. Do you know what episode number this is?
150...
55?
4?
Is it?
Not 6.
Is it 156?
2-1.
Please don't tell me it's 156, because that means we forgot it was the 3 years. That would be a
No, it's not. It's not 156.
No, it's 155, mate.
4.
Okay.
150. It's not 154. 154 was last week.
Whatever.
Numbers.
Jesus Christ.
Numbers, how do they work?
Are we
Anyway.
going to do something for 156, or is that like... Because it wouldn't actually be an exact 3 years, because, you know, we've to and fro
passed
a little bit here and there.
Yeah, we've definitely passed 3 years in terms of like actual time. But it's a nice like number as if you had to watch our podcast each week, then we would be 3 years. So I don't know. It would be good to do something. But then again...
Jamie has begged us to let AI replace us for a week, so maybe we'll do that.
Yes, I just discovered AI.
VTubers.
Yeah, the Super Show brought to you by ChatGPT. Right, fellas, we are a gaming podcast. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we have generated this through AI. So if it sounds a little bit skew or a little bit wonky, don't blame us. Blame the fucking simulation. We're available on all major podcasting platforms of your choice if you'd like the Audible version. I'm talking about Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, probably Audible as well. And if you'd like to see our beautiful faces looking very beautiful and effervescent and bubbly and just me as the third one, you know, the ugly sister in the back, then head on over to YouTube where you can see us at youtube.com/supershowpod. Right, fellas, we're also available, Paisley Radio, Thursdays, 10 p.m, repeats on Monday if you want that kind of like pseudo radio, can't forward it, but because of the internet you can pause it and then just play it, and then you can also just catch it again, or you could just get us wherever you want to consume us, is what I'm trying to say. Fellas, it's been a hot minute. A few things have happened while we've been away, and we're going to talk about some of them. Some call it gaming news. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to start this off with something that doesn't exist. A little bit of nothing, all right? A little bit of like feathers in the wind, okay? Just, you know, on like a really sunny day and you're looking through the windows and the sun's like beating down and there's those like little fucking dust fairy bullshit there. Imagine that, but as the equivalent of a game. It doesn't fucking exist. Yes, I am, of course, talking about...
Abandoned?
Yes, Abandoned,
Oh, no. Yeah.
Also known as The Day Before, which is not the same game, but at this point, they fucking might as well be. No, The Day Before, it was a zombie shooter MMO. I believe it was third person, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, a trailer was revealed way back in 2021, and it looked pretty good. It had a lot of people hyped. It seemed to be scratching that DayZ itch if... if DayZ had kind of continued and updated and modernized with the times, this is probably what it could have looked like. Emphasis on the could, fellas, because again, caveat here, it doesn't fucking exist. Anyway, a lot's been happening, fellas. Have you guys heard?
It looked a bit Days Gone, didn't it? I thought it looked a bit Days Gone, a bit DayZ. It was definitely trying to ride that kind of grungy, post-apocalyptic zombie kind of aesthetic that was going on at the time.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's an MMO and there was like these kind of survival elements to it did kind of skew more towards DayZ. But yeah, I could get the Days Gone kind of feel to it. But yeah, did you guys like see this at all? I mean, it was propelled to the top of Steam's most wishlisted game. Even now, I believe it's like right fucking up there.
Yeah, I think it's like 1 or 2, right? I think it's been number one at certain points, and it's like number 2 recently.
Yeah, it's probably knocked off by fucking Hogwarts.
Sorry, yeah. Can I interject?
Yeah.
Did you see that the Steam like sales rankings for this week came out, including like Hi-Fi Rush and Dead Space and Forspoken, and like Hogwarts Legacy was still the number 1 selling piece of software on all of Steam.
Dude,
that's not surprising at all, though, is it? Like,
it's 3 major new releases, and it couldn't dethrone a pre-order.
But I think that's for me. It's like some games transcend gaming, and I think Hogwarts Legacy is that. There's shit tons of non-gamers who would never buy anything else, but like, I want to be a wizard, Harry, and then they're just going on there and like pre-order.
But do you reckon it's because there just hasn't really been like a Harry Potter game in such a long time?
Yeah,
and I think that's exactly why.
And
personally,
long enough that like Harry Potter fans circa fucking 15 years ago and Harry Potter fans circa 2 years ago are all kind of caught up in the same spell, if you see what I did there. Because, you know, I'm 29 and I'm like young. I was young enough to read some of Harry Potter when I was still in school, when you had to get pulled out of classes and have like separate reading lessons to make sure you were reading books. Like, so it was,
you know, that was the thing. That's weird.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing where like they had to make sure you were reading, but like it's like a weirdly
that was in your special needs class, right?
Yeah, they had to put a ruler under every single line, and I would run my finger across like syllable by syllable and
say it again.
Break words down.
Dog.
But to answer your original question, Chris, this was one of those games I largely knew about because it felt like, you know, there's this cycle sometimes where a game like this comes along, has a very shiny looking trailer, and it's not necessarily about whether or not you see that trailer, it's about whether or not you see seemingly quite niche YouTubers who somehow also have 1 million subscribers making really in-depth breakdowns of those trailers and talk and like decide they're going to devote their channel to that video game. And I watched a few of those like probably a year or so ago and just looked at everything I was seeing and just said, this ain't real. Like, we don't have to stretch that. Like, you can see what established game developers with thousands of employees are making when they spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. You know what it looks like because those games come out every week. This ain't real. That was my gut impression.
Well, yeah, there's a few things, right? Because on the one hand, you could say, look, it could be real. Okay,
sure.
Like you look at, there's a game being developed called Bright Memory Infinite, which is made by that like one dude, and it's like an Xbox exclusive. Yeah, the FPS game, and that looks sick. Like it looks good. It seems like it plays nicely. It's not necessarily promising the world in terms of what it does, but an MMO is a bit of a different beast altogether. But I think the idea that it's like, is it like 2 like Russian developers, should be a fucking red flag to begin with. But there's just been a whole bunch of kind of weird shit going on with this game release. So let me break it down for you fellas, okay? So like I said, it was revealed way back in 2021, like so fucking long ago, with a pretty striking trailer. Obviously, it propelled it to the top of Steam's most wishlisted. Then its initial release date of June 2022 was delayed by a year when the developers, I need to get this right, Fantastic, like Functiontastic, who knows? Anyway, they suddenly announced that they were switching development to Unreal Engine 5 less than a month before its planned arrival. Now, fellas,
which is madness. Like to be like, oh, it's coming out, you know, and then switch engines. That's
yeah. Crazy. Well, I think when this announcement came out, like people were already on the kind of like skeptical train, as it were, right? Totally. Except they were still like, you know, in coach, they were like, you know, lower class. They're still there. They're like, yeah, you know, maybe we're still on this fucking train. And as things kind of progressed, like the skepticism train just went all the way up to fucking first class, and we're getting fucking the caviar of skepticism with what's happening with this game. So earlier this week, just 2 months to go before its revised launch date, the developer pulled the game's Steam listing and announced yet another delay, pushing it further back 9 months. Okay, okay, you know, fair enough. We've it's not the first time we've seen delays, multiple delays per project, even not only in the like indie space, which I guess this would fall under, but also the AAA space. But the unique thing about this one, fellas, is the reason that the devs gave for this delay was the fact that they accidentally forgot to register the trademark for the name of this game. And someone else, it's a Korean guy, I can't remember his name now, but he swooped in and, registered the trademark, which means that it cannot be on Steam anymore, and so they had to pull it. So,
the things with this that sound weird. So I'm sure I read that after this all came out that they then said it wasn't because of the trademark why we delayed it. It's not. We had already planned to delay it before the trademark issue was a thing. And the other weird thing is, I'm pretty sure that even if some rando goes and registers a trademark, you don't just get a trademark. Like, you need to show that you've been using it. You need to show why you want it, because the whole point is to stop people from doing the kind of dodgy shit whereby you just go out there and you buy Coke 02, and then they go, you can't just buy that. You've got to show that you have a fucking product.
Yeah, but Jonesy,
it all sounds really weird.
Here's the other thing. Just change the fucking name and release the game and start making money. Right?
But then, you'd think so.
Yeah, but you can't do that unless you don't have a product, right?
Change it from the day before to the day after, which actually makes more sense for a post-apocalyptic video game. Because the day before anything happens, nothing's happened yet. Just a little sort of piece of information.
But you see, that's a cheeky wink and a nod by the dev saying it'll never happen. Because if you're always waiting for the day before to arrive, it's never going to arrive.
Chris, get Jake Gyllenhaal on the phone and pitch him a sequel called The Day Before Today, instead of The Day After Tomorrow.
The day after tomorrow.
Because the day before today was yesterday, and you already know what happened because it's been and gone.
Exactly.
Jamie's nailed it. They should have just changed it to The Day After. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, but like I said, you can't
fucking change the name of the game.
If they change the name of the game and then they have to release the game and then they need a game to release, they don't have a fucking game. This game doesn't exist. It is vaporware.
It does. I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's vaporware. I think the game exists. We have numerous times now seen devs go to game shows or just like release their own stuff where they release a vertical slice of something which doesn't exist, that they've had their art department draw up. This is kind of what we want to do for this. And then they put this out and it looks fucking amazing. And then they realize it's actually a lot harder to make that thing than you thought it was. And then they have to keep kicking it down the road. That's not to say it doesn't exist. That's to say they just had no idea on the production schedule and they were completely wrong. Yeah. I don't think this is an abandoned situation where it's like a non-existent product and 8K textures and shit.
You see, with the abandoned thing, I kind of think that it was fraud, essentially.
Was it the last night? Was that the one, the most recent?
Oh, yeah, the pixel one.
Which is kind of a similar kind of thing, I reckon, to this.
I don't know. The last night looks far more achievable than what this is going for. Like, this is presenting a world with a clarity and a density that, like, to go back to my previous point, that current AAA video game productions are not matching. And they're doing it with a team that's a fraction of the size, a fraction of the experience, a fraction of the budget, and it's an MMO at the same time. And I think we all kind of love to buy into these, I hate to call them a fairy tale, but that's kind of what it feels like. We all love to believe that someone will come along and just turn the games industry on its head and say, actually, this is possible if you're not a cuck. But like no one, like, it hasn't been proven possible yet. And for as much as we all like to slag off the bar that AAA game studios and some of the biggest publishers around the world continue to reach, that the bar's there for a reason and it has never moved for a reason. And even to kind of pick up on sort of something you were talking about there, Jonesy, this idea that, and it's definitely a fantastic point, that with the sort of like the more widespread availability of really advanced and technically astonishing engines like Unreal Engine 5, for example, it's so much easier for people to say, like, download the city from that Matrix demo, put a Superman model in there, and all of a sudden, you've got, 10 billion views on Facebook where people share before they understand what the fuck's going on. But when you look at projects that have had a bit of that about them, but have actually become real, like, for example, Black Myth Wukong, which everyone looked at and was like, how's this possible? How does it look so good? How's it being made by one person? Black Myth Wukong was around, or was like first seen in a pre-alpha state, mind you, a year before the day before was even on the scene. And even now, as of the time of recording, the developers think Black Myth Wukong is at least 18 months to 2 years away. So
yeah, I remember looking that up at the time. Yeah,
I think that's an example of a game that might have started like this but became real. Like, when you think when you're telling the world you're going to launch a game in March, and all of a sudden you like pull a 9-month delay out your ass when you like, there's nothing about this that if it is real, it's not the way you go about communicating that with the world.
I think what I meant by saying it reminds me of the last night is you make a vertical slice trailer of this is our intention, and
then communicate that. Go to publishers. Ask for money. You get into the reality of
developing it, and you go, holy shit, we can't do this. And I think that's what happened. Same with last night, was they went and they said, even them as like, to be fair to exactly what you're saying, even as like a much more sort of doable project, they found that really difficult, and they couldn't achieve like, in the time frame they were thinking for last night to make that. The idea that these guys are going to come out and make something more impressive than like any AAA game you've ever seen is even more fanciful.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more like Cloud Imperium games,
Star Citizen.
Star Citizen. You've got to wait for the entirety of the technology of the industry to catch up with what you've said you'll do.
Yeah, it's possible. It's interesting, Jamie, what you were saying about the ability to open up Unreal Engine 5, and it's never been easier to kind of just make shit look good. One of the things that people kind of like dissected from the previous gameplay was there was a section where they were going through a petrol station, and people on the internet sleuths, Detective Pikachu's out there, they put on their deerstalker hats, little monocle, and they went hunting for clues. And it turns out that petrol station strikes a eerie resemblance to a petrol station featured in Life is Strange.
Oh, weird.
Down to like the interior of the like convenience shop and the materials used therein. So like it could be that they've just fucking managed to rip that scene, just rebuild it in a, just give it a bit of a fidelity bump.
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Because you need something to show off so that you can get some investment.
Right. No, but I'm saying why it seems weird to even do that. It seems you might as I suppose, maybe you're right. It's easier to copy something else than it is to come up with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the big developers are not. They're not as. What's the word? Like they're not. It's not. They've never done this. I mean, we all remember the first time we saw the Division trailer.
Oh yeah. He could push the door. Could still push the door in the game, but
the glass getting shot through, and then the little things of glass were like breaking and falling, and we were like,
for sure. Ubisoft, between the Division and Watch Dogs and a few other examples, had a really bad patch there of letting the gap between the vertical slices they presented for games at E3 especially, and the final products, that gulf became too big. But Ubisoft are also like a large and somewhat reputable company that have been publishing and developing video games for decades, and
they got somewhere near as well with the Division. They got somewhere near to what they presented.
Division was always a good looking game.
The product, and like I think like Chris pointed out there, like for me this stinks of something that probably is all about investment, because I think as soon as this becomes a tangible product that hits the market, if it ever does, which I have my doubts, then I don't think that's where the money is to be made. I think the money is to be made by fleecing people into continue. Like I hope, for the sake of any sort of like angel investors out there, that no one's been conned by this so far. But like you mentioned,
pre-orders available on this?
No, just Wishlist, from what I understand. So no money was involved from fans or anything. But you would imagine that if something was Wishlist, so I mean, you guys must have stuff on your Steam wishlist, and whenever it becomes available, you get a notification. Not only do I get a fucking email notification on my phone, I also get my Steam notification on my phone at the exact same time saying, hey, this game is available, or this game is on sale, go check it out. And then you wouldn't think it would be that difficult for them to just, fucking hell, even if they just launch a broken fucking game, they could still make money from it. But then, I don't know. It's such a weird one, right? Because on the one hand, if they don't have a product and they just want to walk away, it's very easy for them to say, no, we're abandoning the project. They don't have to go into detail. You just say, sorry, fellas, it's not happening. And just walk away from it. Like, no harm, no foul, right? But by continuing to kind of push these goalposts further and further, they're kind of starting this long con, which is very much like Abandon did.
It's something we saw quite a lot in the crypto world, right? With certain cryptocurrencies and NFTs especially, is like the second people realize that there's nothing at the center of all of this, it all collapses. But for as long as you keep up some kind of illusion that there's some kind of perceived value, then the money keeps coming in. Like, and that's the same here. As soon as a video game comes out, it's over. Like, even if you make a good video game, as soon as it's out, it's over. The longer you keep people believing there's a video game when in fact there isn't, the more you're making money for old rope.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? What do you think the chances are that the third party who bought the trademark, which apparently, they said caused the delay, is actually a member of the fantastic team who was sent out to do this?
I think people have kind of looked into it, and there doesn't seem to be any link between that trademark application and then anyone at the company. But
mate,
you
can
never
get
know.
Anyone to do anything on Fiverr now.
I love that on Fiverr. Could you just trademark this game and delay it?
Get ChatGPT on the case.
You know what is interesting though? I genuinely think, and this is what's most baffling about it. I genuinely think that if they released the game today and it didn't look anywhere near what it looked like in the trailer, but it did fulfill on the promises of what the gameplay would be, I think they'd be fine, and I think they'd sell really well. Like, I'm thinking of games like PUBG, Escape from Tarkov. Like, those games have like robust systems, right? And they are in many respects genre defining, but they're not necessarily the prettiest games to look at.
No.
Yeah. But then even isn't that the thing though? Is like we're sort of saying why they could have just made a really robust game, like, but maybe they don't even have the ability to do that.
Well, so this is the one thing I've got to say in their defense is if you are trying to stand out in, excuse the terminology, wink, wink, a horde of games about zombies out there, how are you going to stand out? You make a game that looks like it cannot be fucking feasible. Right? That looks, the attention to detail is like anything else, is like nothing else you've ever seen before. And you do that to stand out and to get those people wishlisting. And then if you do actually have a fucking game, then you release the game and whatever it is. And you've stood out from the crowd, you've shown them that vertical slice. If there's kickback, you say, look, all the systems are there, as we promised. That was a vertical slice. So yes, of course it looks fucking polished. AAA devs do it all the time. Just look at Ubisoft, which is what we just fucking said. Like there's such an easy way around it. And they can make their millions as being the top of Steam's most wishlisted games chart since its release of the trailer. Like, jeez. Come on, you've got some big bank just waiting for you. But they haven't fucking done that because it doesn't fucking exist, because it's either a fraud or it's on the way to being fraudulent. So it's an interesting one.
I think Jamie made the most important point for me, which is it's really easy to look at like AAA games and developers and publishers and to say, why don't they just do blah? And then you realize, it's because making games is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And making really good games is hard. And the reason they don't just do the magical game in your brain and make it incredible and perfect and be completely bug free and do it in 6 months is because it's not fucking possible.
Yeah, exactly.
So when someone says it is, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One last little tidbit with this news before we move on is one of the moderators for the official Discord of this game, who in the past has been like defending it and, just defending it because he kind of had to because he's a moderator and kind of taking official word from the developers, etc. After this news, he came out and said, at this point, I'm not even sure that this game exists. So,
right. Yeah.
One of your own moderators kind of comes out with that. So, fellas, the whole question on this is, where's Kojima? He's been eerily silent, fellas.
Yeah, we need to start going back and looking for clues. Do any boxes get turned upside down and origins falling out at any point? Yeah. I also got a weird flashback to Peter Molyneux while you were talking through all of that, Chris. The idea of, it doesn't matter if it's not exactly what we promised, just release the fucking... Doesn't matter if the trees don't grow. Release it. Shout out Mr. Molyneux, legend. Game industry icon.
Yeah, Mol, doing big moves lately. What has he been doing lately, actually?
I think he disappeared off the face of the planet after 22 cans and Goddess and what's in the middle of the cube.
I think he
nothing.
So his Wikipedia says he currently works at 22 cans.
But I don't think 22 cans are doing anything, are they? Like, Goddess is still got left it like abandoned in early access. On Steam, at least.
There's nothing. I think he's
just weird. Okay, hold on. Because would you rather these people didn't do? Would you rather there was no Peter Molyneux? Would you rather like Fantastic didn't make crazy trailers like this and add to a little bit? Or would you? I kind of am glad the games industry isn't that. Well, hey guys, come on, let's be serious about what we can achieve.
Brought up Peter Molyneux as a bit of a joke, but Peter Molyneux is at the end of the day like a legendary game developer who was responsible for some extremely important games. If these guys are straight up scammers, like if investors are getting fleeced as a result of this, then no, I don't think this is something that's necessarily good for the industry.
No, agreed. I'm assuming that they are people that had devs that had a really good idea who maybe couldn't achieve what they intended. And
I could ask you the same question about Sean Murray. Like, is it a good thing? That was his name, right?
Sean Come Murray. On, is it? Are we really going to do this?
But Sean Murray and Peter Molyneux both suffered from the same thing, which is they were overexcited and like over enthusiastic about what. They accidentally overpromised on what they thought they could do.
They were also, in the case of Sean Murray, they were also misrepresented. Which is partly on the gaming, which is on the games industry, which is on the game players and fans as well.
I'll tell you what, Jonesy, let me fill you in on what the latest is with Peter Molyneux and tell me if you still think that holds true, okay? Molyneux announced in December 2021 that Legacy, their new game, will incorporate blockchain-based elements, including non-fungible tokens, which will allow players to sell and purchase virtual goods as part of the business simulation gameplay, still without a release date. How does that make you feel?
Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I will say if the NFTs in that game are completely like within the game as a mechanic, so it's just like almost like a meta thing to take the piss out of NFTs in games, then I would say okay, that's quite cool. If they are actual NFTs. No, like if you played like Business Simulator and there's NFTs in the game that are kind of
but that's not good. Tough. Someone get the Olympics on the line. We've got some gymnastics going on out here.
But no, if they're straight up NFTs, I'm like, dude, like 2020 wants its like ideas back. I think they died.
Yeah, like look. The thing is, being part of Bullfrog Productions, Lionhead Studios, Peter Molyneux, a legend in the game, but he's just shut all over his legacy by just continuing to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, 22 Cans era Peter Molyneux was a disaster. Like, I agree.
So, mentioning NFTs, I saw this the other day. Go back and watch the clip of it. Is it one of the Jimmys? I don't know which Jimmy Fallon maybe, and I think it's Paris Hilton. And talking
that's
about
resurfaced to me as well.
Oh my! It is one of the cringiest pieces of television I've ever seen in my life, and to think that people were talking about that. Hey, my ape looks like me. It's like, no, it doesn't, you muppet. It's got a hat on. Like, what are you talking about?
It looks like a badly drawn ape. Like, let's get over yourself.
It looks like someone has slipped you some money out the back and you've gone and talked absolute horse shit about something knowing like there's not a thing. And Peter Molyneux is apparently still pushing it.
Yeah. So, last I heard, Peter Molyneux was involved with a new developer company called Fnatic. Tacticals.
Fnatic are real.
Yeah, Fnatic are an esports.
Fnatic are real. Fanatec are real. Fantastic and not.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. Anyway, from one fantastic vaporware developer to some fantastic supporters of the SuperShow. I, of course, am talking about our lovely patrons, the people that keep us coming back week after week. And the camera's rolling. I am, of course, talking about Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Brimstone, Colkay, Crow's Perch, Davnat Coburn, Ice Not Rock Salt, Jesper Camdal Nielsen, Leo Murger, Mindful Pig, Mr. Anthropic, Pastors Guild, and the big boys, Brett Z, a.k.a. Shellshock, Doppler, Geometric Potter, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel Guerrero, and the one and only Peaswad. Fellas, you'll never believe this, but they went over to patreon.com/supershow and they shared their support. And don't want to jump the gun here a bit, but there may be something that you two are cooking up. Maybe?
Yeah, we've got a few irons in the fire. We'll see how we go. If this week goes as well as last week, we've got nothing in the fire right now. So don't want to speak too soon.
Finding time to sync up with these two guys has been nigh on impossible, actually, hence the delay for this particular podcast. And that all rests at my feet, and I do apologize for that. But, in for a dollar, in for a dime. For a dime, in for a dollar? Whatever it is. Anyway, fellas, it's been just over a week since the last time we spoke, and I'd like to know what you've been up to. Before I get into it, though, I'd like to say that I have not been getting into much stuff. Nothing worth talking about, unfortunately. Obviously watched The Last of Us, which by the time you listen to this is one episode removed from what is available at the moment. But it was a good piece of television, and I did enjoy it, but I don't really want to get into it. So why don't you guys tell me what you have been watching, playing, doing, scrubbing, if you catch my drift. Why don't we start with you, Jamie?
Yeah, well, okay, so mostly playing for me this past week.
Good.
Because, while I was complaining about the number of new releases that were hitting thick and fast this time last week, I actually spent most of the time since then indulging in them. One such new releases, of course, Dead Space, the remake of the 2008 sci-fi smash hit horror game from Visceral at the time, now remade by Motive, still all published by EA. And as you've heard just about everywhere else on the internet by this point, it's a very good remake. It's kind of like a nice middle ground remake where it's not, Resident Evil or Final Fantasy VII degrees of needing to be, scraped off the floor and reassembled, but it's not quite the Last of Us Part 1 levels of this didn't need to happen at all. It's somewhere in between where you're like, I don't even know if this needed to happen because I'm glad it did.
Right, yeah.
It's scary. It's scarier than the Callisto Protocol was at the end of last year. I can say that with some confidence. But my God, is that loop of, dismembering necromorphs and stomping on them to make more bullets fly out still as satisfying as ever. And if that's working, you don't need much else, right?
Yeah, true.
Oh, I want to play it so badly, but I'm not going to because I'm too afraid. Like, I know I just won't enjoy it.
See, I'm managing, and I've been playing on my own, not in the dark, but on my own with headphones on. Because for me,
headphones on as well. Oh,
God.
Yeah.
Well, so for me, the thing has always been, and you guys have witnessed this firsthand, if I feel capable, and if by me I mean like if the player character feels capable, then I'm fine, usually. It's making me unarmed. It's making me, innocent bystander that has to run away and hide in a locker, like Outlast and Outlast 2 vibes. I can't handle that. Parts of Resident Evil 7, where obviously Jack Baker couldn't die, I couldn't handle that.
Your infamous jump scare?
Yes, which one, Like...
The one where you held your heart in your head and you tasted copper.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that was
that particular one.
That was the closest I've ever come to the edge.
You've actually, what's interesting is...
to the edge of glory.
That's tickled Chris. What I think, what's interesting, actually thinking about it now, I think Dead Space marked, like when I hadn't long been playing like shooters on console versus PC. And one of the issues I had with Dead Space originally was trying to nail those, like taking limbs off of necromorphs. And that really was got to me in that game because, like you're saying, Jamie, when it disarms you in a game, that's a different thing. But I constantly felt like that with Dead Space because I was always running out of ammo, and then it was horrible.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I had another bash at it now because I've been, I've been playing mainly consoles for shooting on consoles since then. Jesus Christ, how long ago that was?
You might be better off.
Years ago, something.
Yeah.
I haven't found ammo.
You also have a PC, fella, so don't forget that.
Yeah, but it's easier for me gaming on my PlayStation.
Yeah, that's fair.
I tend to do that.
Yeah.
But Dead Space is really good. I've been playing something else, but might be more better suited to chatting about later because it feels like it was just as much a news story as it was a video game in some respects.
Yeah. So yeah, fair enough. We'll pick it up then. Yeah. Anything you've been watching?
I was talking to you guys earlier because I couldn't remember if we chatted about it before on the podcast, but I have now watched the first 3 episodes of The Rehearsal, which
Nathan Fielder.
Exactly. But Chris, remind me, you only watched the first episode. Did we chat about it on this show? Because I couldn't remember.
So I don't know if we've chatted about it on the show or maybe one of our little preambles before we hit record. And if I did chat about it, I think probably very minimal because it was only the first episode that I watched. For those who don't know, The Rehearsal is a kind of like a reality show by Nathan Fielder of Nathan For You fame, which that show absolutely tickled me in ways.
I was rewatching some tonight, bro. The frozen yogurt one.
Oh god, like just honestly, just all of it. The one where he has to do a magic trick, and if he doesn't do the magic trick in time, his pants get pulled down automatically, and he exposes himself to a group of like 8-year-old children. Like, it's just insane. It is insane in the cringiest way possible, and that guy's a fucking comedic genius.
It's mental. Jonesy, Nathan, for you was ostensibly, like, you know how there are shows where like Gordon Ramsay will go to like a struggling restaurant or something like that and be like, I'm going to help turn your business around and help you figure all this stuff out and give you all these business advice because I'm a sage business guy. Nathan, for you, was like him doing that for all different kinds of businesses, but actually, you know, he doesn't. And so the one I was just telling to like mentioned just then to Chris that I watched earlier, he goes to a frozen yogurt shop and they're really struggling for business, and what the manager wants more than anything else is just more traffic. He wants more people to come to the shop, and Nathan pitches the idea of launching a poo flavored frozen yogurt, and they go through with it, and they're like, well, how do we define what poo tastes like? And they go to one of those places where they actually make flavors by mixing different natural ingredients together, and they make a poo flavor, and they do like, you know, like a group testing where they like go, people are forced to eat small cups of poo flavored frozen yogurt. And
you guys like some weird shit.
Well, we do. Yeah, we do.
The rehearsal is really interesting. It's basically Nathan exploring to what extent you can plan and rehearse for events in your life that haven't happened yet or that you're nervous about. So say that like you've got an uncomfortable conversation that you know you have to have, but it's giving you a lot of anxiety. Nathan will step in and go to bizarre extremes, whether it's like creating an exact one-to-one replica set of your house and the place you're going to have the conversation in, and hiring actors to play significant people in your life, like the person you're going to have the conversation with, and rehearsing it over and over and over again, exploring
going through
all
the
possible
different iterations.
Yeah, all possible iterations and outcomes so that you're prepared for whatever happens in your life.
Do you know what it sounds like Gen Z humor to me, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not surprised at all if Chris is into that.
I don't think it is Gen Z humor. I think when you watch it, you'll be like,
it is.
No, you'd be surprised if you watched it. But that's
honestly, I kind of feel like it defies categorization in a way. It's
Gen Z for you, man.
Yeah, true.
Can't categorize it
anyway.
It's been like, I think I watched the rehearsal like last year, middle of last year, the first episode.
Summer, exactly.
Yeah, and I just
you weren't really into it. You didn't get into it.
I was, but it's you got to understand that kind of humor. It's like it can be so cringe, dude. Like ridiculously cringe.
I can't watch cringe,
and
I literally can't watch cringe as well.
See, I can, but I got like, if I'm watching a series about cringe, I got to kind of roll into it, and I think like too much time went between the first episode and the time that I could watch the second episode that I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, you know. It is a momentum thing.
It goes to crazy places. Let's just say the episode 2 involves real babies being switched out for robot babies at like in like certain intervals, and like
mad.
Yeah. And
mad.
A point in episode 3 where Nathan realizes that that there's a difference between someone acting like they're having that conversation or acting like they're doing something and actually feeling like they're doing something. As you witnessed in episode 1, like once the person's there and in the zone, it's different. The adrenaline, the emotions. So how does he bring...
Is this real people?
It's 100%
real situations.
It's 100% reality, yeah.
So why do they agree to this?
I've read it because I'm obsessed with it now. I read a New Yorker article on the guy from episode 1 today, and like they are real people, and they put out like Craigslist ads being like, "Do you have a problem that you're struggling? TV opportunity, colon. Do you have a problem you're struggling to get off your chest?"
And we
like
can help
like
you,
that.
kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, and they vet them all, and they're like, "We're going to follow with this guy."
Yeah, because they vet them because they try and find like these gullible people that'll go with this fucking bizarre, extreme
Chris,
kind of thing.
I won't say the context, but when they're going for that walk and they keep walking past like individuals that all have weirdly like important things to say to them, and there's police officer with the hostage negotiation going on behind him, and he goes like, "It's days like these that I rue the day the Chinese invented gunpowder." And then it's like, I know that's so inside baseball. I really apologize, but it's extraordinary.
It is mad. Jonesy, you give it a shot, man. Homework.
I'll give it a shot.
The first episode's like 40 minutes. The rest of them are in like a half an hour or less, and it is a comedy. Like, it's not heavy watching.
Yeah.
I find it a bit weird because so like stage TV, like having worked in TV and having known like how much bullshit it is and how it's hard to get people to actually do or people don't act like you think they're going to act. Not to mention the fact that in the UK, my brother was on one of those prank shows where they try and prank you. Yeah, he wasn't in the end because he said it was so obvious that it was a prank that it didn't work at all. And he was like, it was so shit. He said it was so obviously a prank that he didn't believe any pranks he's ever seen on prank shows ever.
Yeah,
he's like, they've got to be bullshit. They're so badly done.
Was it one of those shows that had no audio that would have played on like those fold down screens that come down on planes in 2008?
No, it was like a proper TV. Yeah. It was like a proper TV show with Bill Oddie. Do you remember Bill Oddie?
Oh yeah, Bill Oddie. Yeah.
Okay.
Is he a bird nature guy? Yeah, he was part of it. And the prank. So my brother went for lunch. I'll argue. So my brother went for lunch. My mum invited my brother for lunch. They went, and then while they were in there, they put a nest with a bird in it or eggs in it on my brother's car. And then he came out, and they were like, "Oh, this really rare bird has put its nest on your car."
And your brother was, "Get this fucking shit off my windscreen."
Well, you can't move your car because it's really rare, so you have to leave your car here. And they like put cones around his car. And he said almost straight away, he said to the person who was talking to him, he said, "This is obviously bullshit." And they were like, "No, what are you talking about?" And he was like, "Is it normal for people in your line of work and whatever they are, conservationist, to be wearing an earpiece?" And they were like, and apparently they basically came out and said, "Yeah, it's obviously. Would you mind just pretending?" And my brother's not a good actor, and he went, "Yeah, all right." And it was shit, which is why it never aired.
Left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, it was so obvious that he was just like, "Yeah, oh no, my car. What am I going to do?"
I love that.
And it made me sad for prank shows forevermore. I'm not saying this is a prank show. This may be completely legit, but you know.
It seems like it, but who knows where the lines get blurred, as in the case with your brother. Like, we wouldn't have known. They could have.
Oh, you would. I think you would have been like that.
Yeah, but what if they got a few shots of him when he's like confused, and then the rest of it was him when he's or, you know, we're all editors.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, yeah. It's like you say, the just for laughs stuff. Some of those are so absolutely terrible.
It's like fucking. It's like those Facebook pranks that they fucking do. It's like every single person in the shot is in on it. This is just a script.
Anytime they've got £20,000, I'll give you 20 grand if you do this. It's not 20 grand. Here's an inside. It's not 20 grand. It's not real. Every time they've got a phone and they're giving away mobile phones for free, there's no phones in the box. Yeah. In case you didn't know.
Here's a fucking homeless guy. I'm going to give him some food or ask him for some help, and then he helps me, and I'm going to give him $10,000. Nope,
they didn't.
That's your buddy. That's your cousin. Shut up.
So your hairy buddy that you like got to wear old clothes and you've made him lie on the street. It's not real. He's
just come back from Coachella. He's fine. What about you, Jonesy? What have you been up to?
I've not really done anything of any note this week. I've played a few little things. Like I played a bit of Dark Tide. I got through the prologue of that.
Nice.
Because I would like at some point in the near future to maybe jump on there and play with you guys a bit. But
100%.
Just sort of get a bit of a feel.
I'm so there, buddy. I've got so much time on my hands. I'm winning at life. I'm managing all my schedules. I'm good to go. Start playing after this. Let's do it.
But we'll find a time when we can hop on and do that. But no, one thing I did do, I finished season 3 of Mythic Quest.
Nice. I need to get on it, man.
Mythic Quest is a show I fucking love. Like the comedy to like drama, the way that it swings and goes to those two things, I think is fantastic. And they absolutely nail in some of that show. I will say season 3 doesn't quite. I mean, it is a bit of a letdown compared to, I think, season 1 and 2. Some things are fine, some things are quite good, but I think tail end of season 3, it kind of goes off the boil a bit, and it kind of feels like they're trying to reset for season 4, if that makes sense.
Right?
I think they were like, the story's gone places we didn't really want it to go, so let's try and do a bit of a reset.
Fair.
At the end of season, earlier on. But I'm keen for season 4, and like I said, I absolutely love some of the surprising drama that show gives you when you think it's going to be all stupid humor, and then suddenly they'll pull out like full on emotional drama.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. I was not expecting.
Jamie's kind of giving you the blank stare. But Jamie, if I can equate it to you, you haven't seen any of the Mythic Quest, have you?
No.
So I know how you feel about sitcoms and stuff, but if I had to kind of equate it to you, and maybe not exactly like it, but it's definitely within that vein, it's kind of like Dave, like almost this. But whereas Dave is like a singular person being introspective and the drama around the comedy in his life, this is more ensemble. And maybe, the meat is not full Dave, but it's definitely not the kind of comedy that you really dislike. It's probably like, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I wondered if you were going to bring up Dave because with what Jonesy was talking about in sort of like the ratio of laughs to sort of like slightly more sentimental elements, and Dave obviously kind of had that refrain where at least one episode, at least one point in each episode in that first season was like, yeah, but here's the real emotional.
Yeah, here's where she gets real.
Yeah.
See, the Mythic Quest doesn't do. Mythic Quest will have like 2 episodes that seem fully funny, and then there'll be and then the next episode will be the same, and then suddenly at some point in it will just get super serious, and it throws you, and then you're like, oh shit, these are real characters with like real stuff going on, and then the next episode will be a throwback to 20 years before. None of the characters are the same, but it's giving you some backstory, and it's full on drama.
Yeah,
it's barely any.
Dave
comedy.
does some of that as well, right? Like,
okay,
I'm thinking about, I forget their names, but is it Gator? The one who has
Gator.
Does he have PTSD also? Yeah, I feel like a lot of that episode was
he's bipolar.
Bipolar, that was it. A lot of that was flashbacks, right? Is how you get his.
Yeah, so he gets like a flashback episode which kind of explains his bipolarism, but then from that episode you kind of obviously understand him a bit more, but it reframes everything that you know about him. That's the fucking genius of Dave, man. Dave's such a fucking quality show. And funnily enough, like the other day I had it stuck in my head, like the end of season 2 in Dave, where he does the whole fucking what's his name music producer. Anyway, and then it goes, well,
I never watched season 2.
Oh, you never watched season 2? Oh, I'm not going to spoil it then.
I binged season 1 in like 2 days on iPlayer.
Oh, you could just do season 2, man. It's
I know.
Equally as
There's
good.
so much to watch nowadays.
I know.
Is
Mythic
Mythic Quest on Apple?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying because I think it's in season 1, maybe. But there's an episode of Mythic Quest where it goes back to it's season 1. It's called A Dark Quiet Death, and it is nothing to do with Mythic Quest. It is just it's almost like the history of the office where they work, and it is an episode that you could watch as a standalone for anyone who's into like video game design, video game development. And it looks at a couple who kind of get together for their love of games and how they grow apart because one of them like wants to take the money, and one of them is all about the creative process.
Yeah,
and it's actually like kind of harrowing. And I just looked on IMDb. It's rated 9.4 out of 10 on IMDb, nice. And it's got who is it? It's Charlie Day. Sorry, no, Charlie Day wrote it. Who's the guy in it? It's
the guy from New Girl.
Yeah, from New Girl.
Jake,
I can't remember his name.
Jake Johnson.
Oh, Jake Johnson.
Yeah, I know him.
And Kristen Milioti. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I'm like reading on thing. But yeah, and I would say you could watch that as a standalone episode and be like, that's a cool fucking episode of something. And then you watch the next episode, you'd be like, what the hell am I watching? This is nothing. This is completely different. This is Rob McElhenney being a Muppet.
But again, it just kind of reframes people's relationships, right? I fucking love shit like that.
Yeah. But no, that was it for me. Yeah, not a lot else has gone on for me.
Nice. All right, well, let's move on to our last thing that we'll cover now, and we're running out of time, so we're going to kind of go through it. There's only one major thing here, I guess, that's important, which is basically everything announced at Xbox and Bethesda's Developer Direct, which I love that they did this. I think it's really cool, especially at the time of year that they did it, and kind of saying, hey, this is what you can look forward to, and here's some fucking dates, and let's hear from the actual developers and what they're doing. So they kicked it off looking at like the Minecraft spin-off, Minecraft Legends, and its PvP experience. And I mean, fine. I mean, I'm not really that big into Minecraft. I'm sure it's going to have a massive audience, but I still look at this game and I still don't know what it is, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. I felt like they got a bit too, not necessarily in the weeds, like it wasn't hard to pass, but like Chris said, I felt like we could have done with a slightly more introductory or slightly smoother on-ramp into the world of Minecraft Legends. Because, you know, like, I can see what it looks like, I can see what it's drawing from, but yeah.
Yeah, like legitimately, I do not know. Like every time I thought I knew what this game was, it's like, oh yeah, but then you can like just send the pigs to attack them around the back. I'm like, what? I don't know what's going on. Maybe that's just me being a fucking boomer. I don't fucking know.
Dungeons has thrown me a bit as well because Dungeons was not quite what I was expecting from that, so I'm kind of expecting to be as surprised as I am.
Right, but with Dungeons, Jonesy, it was like, hey, here's Dungeons. It's basically Minecraft's take on Diablo. And you're like, okay, I get that.
Right, yeah.
I don't understand what,
that's
like,
true,
and Minecraft Legends is like their take on like an MMO-ish, but I don't really get it.
Well, it's like it's got elements of third-person action, but it's also got elements of like, you know, the kind of the resource gathering and the crafting and the building you'd expect from Minecraft. It's got RTS elements where it seems like you're spawning units and kind of commanding them in battle, but also fighting alongside them and kind of like, you know, those kind of hybrid RTS third-person action adventure games sort of experiences. But then there's also elements of like you know, almost like defense style games where like, you know, and like they said it focused on the PvP, so like different people taking different roles within like his yeah. There was a lot going on.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who doesn't understand it, Jamie, because you're making me feel better about myself.
I think it's hard to understand. I genuinely think that it looks like a completely different game. They were like, let's make this Minecraft, and because it looks like it has kind of nothing to do with Minecraft.
Like what's PvE in that? Like, what's the single player experience in Minecraft Legends?
Building your base.
Maybe.
Can you disconnect it? Do you have to opt into PvP? Like, I don't know. Survival, like Grounded. I don't know. And this is the problem for me. But hey, I'm sure people that are really into Minecraft, they do know, and they're going to be happy to know that it's out on the 18th of April. PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and of course, free on Games Pass. And then they moved on to something that I'm always passionate about, Forza Motorsport. Just kind of showing off all the usual things. We've mentioned this before on the podcast, Jamie, but like every time there's a new car game, it's like the most advanced car game, whether it's like Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport, or if it's even like Horizon for the arcade slant. But it's always kind of like the highest fidelity, the most expanded roster, this, that, the other. And it's like, yeah, because like that's what it is. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it feels weird, like now that we're getting to a bit of a point of diminishing returns. Like there was a point through, especially the early era of polygonal graphics moving into PlayStation 2 and then the HD era, where like cars were a really good, like, hey, you know what this looks like. You know you want it to go fast. You can see the wheels slowly becoming rounder and rounder until they don't have fucking jagged edges anymore. But we crossed that line like a couple of years ago where now cars have looked really good for a while. And I'm excited to see, you know, Turn 10 slowly starting to tease their way. They're trying to eke out a bit more, look how nice this car looks. And all that stuff did look really nice. And I'm sure that we're going to take advantage of the Series X in some really cool ways, and some of the ideas they've got around ray tracing and how that's going to tie into the dynamic sort of time of day stuff that they're doing. Like, it's going to be really cool. Some of the things they talked about, damage models looks great. But if I can sort of get to my, not to be a negative Nancy, but get to my issue, it's kind of a Minecraft Legends situation, which is that I'm not the kind of car nut who can look at cars looking pretty and say, well, that's a day one purchase. Like, what am I doing? You've created a sub-series of this game that is so much better for my tastes than Motorsport, because it's got story elements and it's got a massive range of activities, and I'm doing crazy stunts, and I'm fucking, you know, spinning the wheel to, you know, unlock new cars.
Hitting pinatas and
literally, and it's like, you're going to need to really wow me if you just want me to get excited about a Ford GT looking shiny again. Like, what are we doing here?
You know what they're going to bring in? The car randomly break down, and you'd have to sit on the side of the road for real time 3 hours waiting for the AA.
Yeah, waiting for the AA. That's the future.
It's a feature. It's a feature.
You'll turn the box off. You'll turn it back on. You'll still be sat there waiting for the AA, and you've got to wait that real time.
It is one of these things where it just kind of feels like they need to go through the motions, because you always need to have a good racing game on your console that is the most up to date.
Yes.
Right? And
best looking,
and
all of the latest cars.
And for Xbox, that's Forza Motorsport, and for PlayStation, that's Gran Turismo. And they just like, each console generation needs to have it. It's written in the
go
roll.
to your one friend out of 30 who actually buys them and sits there and has the rig.
But no, Jonesy, now everyone will have it because it'll be on Game Pass. So why not? Yeah, also, Jonesy,
only one
did you know
friend in 30 will actually play it.
They're going back to Kyalami, a storied South African racetrack. So that makes me very happy. Got a nice little highlight there. So presumably, as you're going there, you will get danger of being hijacked. So if they add that in, fucking day one purchase, that would be amazing.
The thing is, games are getting. It always strikes me as funny when certain games get like closer and closer to being like as realistic as possible. It's going to get to the day where it's indistinguishable from your real life, because it's so like it takes you literally 10 years to get a new car in Forza Motorsport, because they're like, no, you have to wait and save up.
You have to earn it.
The Ford Fiesta, move on to the Renault Clio, and you're like.
And then they introduce.
How long is this taking?
They introduce career mode, but career mode is actually no. You need to go out, start a job, so that you can afford this next car.
Yeah. Yes. And you actually have to do the job and work, and you have to type.
Yeah.
This is my job.
And the whole game is going to be called Third Life, because it'll be the sequel to Second Life. Anyway,
I guarantee you, someone on the Gran Turismo team has pitched that as a concept. They've already made us get all our licenses and
you fail your. Imagine that. Imagine you fail your driving test and you're playing Forza Motorsport. It's like, how are you liking the game? Like, man, I failed my fucking driving test 10 times. I can't play yet.
Gatekeeping.
And you've got to wait.
Well, Jonesy, Gran Turismo Sport made you sign a digital gentleman's agreement kind of document.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically saying like a fair play kind of thing. Saying like you're not going to be a douche in the game. It's like, okay.
And then every clip I see of like this is what they do. They go to all this lengths to make like racing games, incredible and realistic, and all the cars look amazing. And then every bloody clip I see from like Forza Horizon is just people getting really shit cars that are insanely fast, and they race them down that one road and just overtake people like after they've waited 3 minutes for them to start the race, and then they take off at 400 miles an hour, and you're like, why do they bother?
Yeah,
why do they really bother?
Well, anyway, we can find out for ourselves in the first half of 2023. It was first expected in the first half of 2023, but now it looks like it's going to arrive in Q3, maybe Q4. Who knows with these people? I mean, Microsoft Studios have been known to push stuff out. But one thing that was a lovely surprise was when Tango Gameworks announced Hi-Fi Rush, a rhythm action game that gave loads of vibes of Jet Set Radio. And in a nice, pleasant surprise, it was shadow dropped for that very night. And I obviously, everyone loves that, but more so, it's a game that really fucking stands out. It's a game that looks really incredibly fun. And I know, speaking to Jamie, it's like, yeah, I'm downloading it tonight and I'm going to try it out, which I believe you did. I love shit like that. And I'm so glad that it is doing well. And not only that, apparently it has smashed the kind of myth that games on Game Pass don't make any money, because it's obviously available on other platforms as well, and it's selling pretty good. Which, surprise, surprise, get enough people happy about it and talking about it that other people feel, hey, maybe I should try it out, and then they will. Yeah. So there you go. What do you think, Jamie? Like so this was the other thing that you played. What was your take?
Yeah, I'm really digging it. Like I've only played a handful of hours because obviously I spent the weekend bouncing between this and Dead Space, which is fun because you couldn't ask for two more different games if you tried. Yeah. It's like it's everything it says on the tin. Like it's everything you want it to feel like and play like when you're watching it. That combat is really satisfying. They've found a way to kind of match it to the rhythm. They've got this system where I believe no matter when you input an attack, it always hits on the beat. So if you want to follow up your attack and stay on the beat, it's got the system of like roughly just try and press your next attack when your last one landed. And that sounds like it might be a bit fidgety in the moment, but it's not. And the whole world moves to the beat. The presentation is just fucking insane. Not just like in terms of the wildness, the zaniness, the colors, but also just it's so impressive. Like it really feels like a labor of love. And the fact that they worked on something like this for so long in secret and managed to make it till like basically 24 hours before the show, before there was even an inkling, an idea that something like this might be happening.
Yeah, no leaks or anything.
Right, and then Shadow dropped it, and then for it to actually also be good, it's too early to say whether it's a Game of the Year contender. I know some real Xbox heavy people have already gone in on that because, well, they're an excitable bunch. It's been a tough year for them. I get it. I'm teasing. But like, it's great. Like it's a real like earnest, fun, lively, colorful, vibrant action game. And the way they, like I said, the way they integrate some of those rhythm mechanics really makes sense. The soundtrack's great. They've got licensed tracks from bands like Black Keys, Nine Inch Nails, The Prodigy. Chris, you I'm right in thinking you're a fellow Invaders Must Die fan.
Big time.
Bro, there's a scene where like the protagonist, who's called Chai, it's like like crashes through a window and realizes he's basically in like a cafeteria filled with all the robots. I will say at this point, he's basically had his MP3 player put into his power cell, like Tony Stark style, which has made him marked as a defect. So everyone on this campus, which is run by an evil, mega corporation that creates robots and robotic adjacent stuff, is trying to destroy him. And you hear that dun 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 at the start of Invaders Must Die, and you realize, oh shit, that's what they're gonna do. And it's like, that Invaders Must Die, and then the beat drops the second you get control, and it's like, and everything in the environment, so anything that moves in the environment moves to the beat of the song that's playing. So everything, and even enemies attack to the beat of the song that's playing. So enemies are attacking to the beat, you're attacking to the beat, the environment's moving to the beat.
It sounds so cool, man.
It's the fucking Prodigy.
That does sound really cool.
And it's like, it does all come together to make a really unique experience that I enjoyed way more than, for example, that Doom-inspired FPS last year that had a similar...
I
didn't click with that. And with this, it was like, the second I moved the left analog stick and I realized the protagonist's feet, Chai's feet, always land on the floor to the beat of whatever's playing, I was like, they're onto something here. And it's and like it's shadow dropped on Game Pass. Like we can immediately get excited about something and then play it 2 hours later. It was just the fucking dream. Like that night, I was so excited.
I was thinking about this, like when they announced it, I was thinking, how cool would it be? Because you can watch this stuff on your Xbox, right? And I was thinking, how cool would it be if, I don't think we're there yet, but how cool would it be if you're watching something on your console, like let's say if you're on PS5, you're watching like a PlayStation 5 Direct or whatever, and if they shadow drop something, as you're watching it, a little notification pops up like, hey, press the Xbox button or press the PlayStation button to download it now. Like that would be so fucking cool.
Do you know what? If the band U2 hadn't ruined downloading things to devices without your permission, that would have been cool. Because if they'd said like, hey, just so you know, we've been secretly downloading Hi-Fi Rush for you, and if you want to play it, here it is. You can launch now.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, right? Like if you shadow download or upload in this case, so if you're Microsoft and you shadow upload the first like tutorial level to everyone's Xbox, making sure that they've got enough space and they will have enough space after that install of the like quote unquote demo. And then it'll be a question of like, if you play it and then it's like, oh yeah, I want more of this. And it just keeps on downloading the next stage and the next stage and the next stage until it gets to a semblance of like,
that's a fun idea, yeah.
Okay, this guy really wants to play the fucking game. And then it's like, well, we'll just download the rest of it.
I like that
That'd be
idea.
sick, man. That would be really cool.
Yeah. But yeah. I just want to put a cap on it by also just saying that, like, January's just ending, and I legitimately think between Hi-Fi Rush and Dead Space, I've already had 2 games that I would be proud and happy to put on my end-of-year top 10 in, like, 11 months' time. Like, it's really cool that that's what, we were jamming out to this weekend. Forspoken who? Square Enix who?
But
I have seen some interesting tweets about Forspoken. In this last week, it's been interesting. People have sort of actually giving a lot more love to that game than I've seen on reviews.
If nothing else had come out, I probably would have caved on Forspoken, but it just seems such like a hard sell with everything else that's going on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So on the Xbox thing, next up was Elder Scroll Online's next expansion, Necrom, which had leaked, but which is a little bit unfortunate. But whatever, you get a new class called the Arcanist, and it's set in the eastern part of Morrowind. Morrowind, obviously my favorite area in the Elder Scrolls. Not that you guys care. And that is out June 20th, 2023. If I were into MMOs, I think this is a really tempting kind of fucking thing for me. But I'm not, so who gives a shit? And then they capped off the show with Arcane Austin's Redfall to close out the show, which it's, it should have been out already. It's been a long time coming, but it is now coming out on the 2nd of May. And I want to get your guys' take on this before I say anything. Like, what did you think of Redfall, what it is, the presentation? Because they went into some like nice depth of like almost like the opposite of how they started the show with Minecraft Legends and like what it is. And Redfall did a fairly good job of saying like, this is what it is, this is what you'll be doing, and this is why it matters, kind of thing. But yeah, what was your guys' take?
I didn't actually see this on the show. I've before the stuff they've released of Redfall before, I started off being completely uninterested. Yeah. And then as it sort of went on, I actually thought, okay, this actually looks like it could be quite a bit of fun, especially to hop in and play with some friends. And I think I'm still in the same place with Redfall. Like it's something that looks fun. I might hop into it, but it's nothing that I'm sort of like waiting with bated breath for.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Jamie?
Yeah. Kind of in a similar boat. Like I'm still hopeful. It still seems like it's something that's going to be fun to jump in, as like especially for a co-op session. Great game to add to the the Game Pass library. Hashtag not sponsored, but it was a little bit like, because like you're right, Chris. It was a big chunk of gameplay, and there was a lot of explanation as to what was going on and what you're going to be doing, and it feels like it's sort of like it's becoming a little bit more transparent about what it is as far as a genre and like comparable games. Like, hey, this is probably more of a Far Cry like than a I don't even know, like than a Destiny, like, for example.
Yeah.
But there is still an element for me where my excitement for Redfall, like, over the last year or so, has largely been like, okay, it's Arcane Austin, they've got chops. I want, even if they're pulling back a little bit on the immersive sim elements, it still looks good. And I'm excited to see what happens. And I'm waiting for that moment to happen where I get excited more based on the credentials of the game itself and what I'm seeing, rather than just how good the game should be in theory. And for some reason, this gameplay like preview didn't swing the pendulum that way. Nothing about like the fights I was seeing and the gunplay I was seeing, or the variety of weaponry and mechanics and abilities that the player characters used really made me go like, oh wow, this looks like something special. It just looks like something I'm probably going to play.
Yeah.
Which in sort of a
I think
shrug
maybe
of the shoulders start.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the kind of the other side of the whole Game Pass thing, right? Where if it's served to you on a platter, sometimes it's not as easy to get excited about. I think people are excited about what's called Hi-Fi Rush, because it's something different, that looks different, that plays different, that kind of is set in that unique thing. Whereas with Redfall, it's like, you know what kind of game that is in a way. Even though it's taking different parts from different kind of things, but it's very much a known quantity, whereas Hi-Fi Rush is like, oh, that seems weird. I think I want to try that out. Whereas with Redfall, it's like, well, it's obviously got high polish, it's got a high pedigree. So yeah, it's going to be given to me, so I'll play it. I think for me, when I saw their presentation, I warmed up to Redfall a hell of a lot more than I did. But then again, I think prior to what they showed off, I was maybe the one coolest on what they were trying to achieve. I was very non-fussed about it, but actually, yeah, it looks pretty cool. Like, looks like I could sink into it a lot more than just the obligatory one session with the boys, you know. But hey,
I suppose energy-wise, I would say for me, Redfall feels kind of akin to Back 4 Blood. Like that's my energy toward it. It's like
great point.
Yeah, I'm into it. I want to get it. It's gone Game Pass. I'll be like saying to you, "Hey, let's do it." And I reckon we'll probably hop into a couple of sessions. But that's how where my energy's at with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe we should.
Maybe that's unfair. Maybe it's too early to say that. But
maybe on May 2nd we should all get together and stream it on SuperShow. Maybe.
I mean, I've heard crazier ideas.
Yeah, cool. Well, that was the the Xbox and Bethesda Developer Direct. Obviously, they're going to do one for Starfield closer to apparently Starfield's release, but who the fuck knows what's happening with that? We'll find out soon enough, I guess. And I guess this is also Microsoft's way of saying, all right, Sony, ball's in your court now. Show us what you got, because it doesn't look like there's a whole lot on Sony's roster.
I'm hoping there's something soon. Do you guys see they've started doing these sort of weird live action adverts that do include sort of teasers of Spider-Man 2 and something that some people think might be something Uncharted related, just because it vaguely involves something, someone blowing dust off.
But then Naughty Dog came out and saying, "No, actually, we're done with Rocks. We're done with Uncharted."
So who knows?
That was weird, man. The way they said, I don't know. I was not expecting that.
You know what that was? That was that one friend in your group who's like, "Oh yeah, I've got a girlfriend now." And you're like, "Okay."
It was weirdly, it was like that. We're not interested in that anymore. Because then it was at the same article. They were like, "Oh, we would make." There's no plans to make a Last of Us Part 3, but if we could tell a similar sort of story and it was the messaging was right, we would do it. But no, we're not going anywhere near a Nathan Drake ever again. Like, oh, okay, wow.
But it's interesting that you phrase that, because again, for my take and my feeling coming away from Uncharted 4 was like, yeah, you do never have to come back to Nathan Drake again. That was the point of Uncharted 4. Yeah. And maybe if a reboot is the way to go, maybe it doesn't need to be Naughty Dog. Like maybe someone else gets a shot. I don't know. And if that's what Neil's getting at, then cool. But if not, then that's a bummer.
I don't know. It felt like he was saying if the story was right and the messaging was good, then yeah, Last of Us Part 3 for sure we would. And then it was like, and then I don't know. I was expecting the same kind of thing with Uncharted. It's like, oh well, if the energy was right and the story was right, then yeah, why would we not revisit that? But it was almost like, no, we're never going back there again. Like, oh, okay, fair. Well, yeah, all right, mate. Calm down.
Sorry, Jonesy.
Fellas, I just want you to know, I've had sex.
Wow. Neil Druckmann fucks. Neil fucks.
But he doesn't fuck with Nathan Drake anymore, apparently.
No,
but, hey, guys, you're forgetting. He's directed an episode of an HBO television show.
Oh.
So he only deals in prestige IPs now.
An HBO television show which has been confirmed to be getting a season 2.
I mean, in news that will shock absolutely no one. There you go.
Yeah.
Bring on Ronda Rousey, right, Jonesy?
What's funny is that I saw some short about was it women competing in the what's the thing they do, the gym fit thing where it's like
CrossFit?
CrossFit?
Yeah, CrossFit. They had some CrossFit women doing like lifting heavy shit and whatever, and I was like, she would be great in that role. She would be great in that role. Physically, they would be great.
Yeah, but can they act? Yeah.
And so I think that's unfortunately for Ronda Rousey, that is the same issue. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, have to wait.
Whereas I'm kind of worried about this. But this girl that they're going to put, apparently they've cast him for it. They need to get her on the fucking Trenbolone before she can Anavar and the test before she can take on the role.
Yeah, just get a contract with
looking a bit skinny.
Just get a contract with the Liver King, right?
Oh yeah.
Get on the Liver King's diet. Speak to The Rock. Get on Liver King. Get on, speak to Hugh Jackman, who's never taken anything in his life.
But maybe Zac Efron could spare an hour for a consultation.
Yeah. She needs a square jaw. So so good.
I said just cast Zac Efron. Why not?
Get.
Do you know what? If Zac Efron's going to play Abby, he needs to fall over and sustain an injury now so that his face looks right in 3 years when they start filming.
Yeah.
That sex scene would be weird with Zac Efron as that,
Zac Efron fucking Neil Druckmann, am I right? Do you remember that conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
No.
Like the character, there's a character in, I can't even remember, there's a character in like Abby's posse that looks a bit like Neil Druckmann because he's got like long hair that he ties up.
Yeah, he was the one who spat on Joel at the beginning.
There was like a theory that like Neil Druckmann had like around the same time lots of misinformation about the game and like transsexuality and stuff like that was spreading.
So
but like Neil Druckmann had like cast himself in the game so that he could fuck someone or like sorry, I don't even remember.
Wow.
Conspiracy.
People have too much time on their hands.
Yeah, big time. But it also Dr. Upton. But it also kind of poo-poos my idea that season 1 or rather Last of Us Part 1 will be extended to 2 seasons because they have said that season 2 did they say officially that it's going to be part 2?
I think Neil Druckmann put out a tweet that heavily implied it. Like he.
Oh no! It was that the story of part 1 will be concluded in season 1. I think that's what it was. Which obviously
because I
is
tried
another
to
way of saying yeah.
I don't know though because I tried to read into it because I tried to see exactly this. What is season 2 going to be part 2 then? I still think that they're going to, and I know you guys disagree, but I think they're going to slide in some. New story stuff into another maybe. I still think it's going to be 2 seasons.
I think I'm coming around to it, Jonesy, because if this does well enough, then it kind of gives them the opportunity to be able to do that, and it obviously has done well enough. So I can see the door opening for them to think that way. Do I think that they should do it? No. I know Jamie thinks that it's not going to happen, but I think the possibility's there.
They've been on the record about not having no desire to Game of Thrones this by trying to make it up as they go along, and I don't think they're going to take that many creative liability. Like, I think the story's there. They know how these you're not going to risk it by making a season 2 that's about something else entirely. Also, the tweet that I saw, it's very much open to interpretation. But Neil Druckmann quote tweeted The Last of Us HBO's account saying, "Oh, we're returning for another season 2." And his tweet was part 2, in Roman numerals, and then an arrow to HBO. Part 2, up to this point, being the way that obviously the second game has been referred to.
I know what you mean about the not creating new story and like Game of Thrones in it. I absolutely agree with you with that. I suppose my thinking was more like I could see them doing like a padding season where nothing really happens to Joel and Ellie,
but why risk it
around them? As Chris said, like purely to extend it out because it's making money.
Yeah, but if it's a pure padding season, then you're just cutting off your momentum, right?
No, it depends. Not if you could have some real story stuff happen. Just it would have to happen to other people. Like it would have to happen to some side characters that we've not met yet, and we get some we get more of the world being filled out, and we get some more interesting stuff happening where nothing's really going to happen to Joel and Ellie because their stories are already set. Yeah. But I can appreciate that maybe that's unlikely, but I don't know. At the same time, it seems surprising to me if your series is absolutely killing it and your viewing numbers are that good, and you're like, no man, season 2, this is happening, and it's like, oh wow, okay. 1, 2, you're done. But we said part 2 could be split into 2 seasons. So 3 seasons as prestige TV. Why not?
Also,
maybe
HBO. One of my favorite HBO shows of the last couple of years was One and Done, and it was critically acclaimed, and that was Watchmen.
Yeah.
And you're right. That is a better way to do it rather than what's the one, the zombie one?
Oh, fucking The Walking Dead with like 50 different spin-offs.
Yeah. They didn't know how to end it.
And it's just like exactly. It's literally become what it's called. It's The Walking Dead. Like it just won't fucking die. They should have just like got rid of it years ago, but
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Things that probably should have gotten rid of years ago. That's us, fellas, and we're done with another podcast. So yeah. Thank you if you are listening to us on a podcasting platform of your choice. And thank you if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Paisley Radio. We appreciate each and every single one of your ear canals and the stirrups and the anvils and the wax. So, hey, check back with us next time for more Super Show goodness, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.